Geçtiğimiz hafta NATO'nun aylardır beklediği an geldi ve Türkiye, İsveç'in askeri ittifaka katılımı konusundaki vetosunu kaldırdı. Cumhurbaşkanı Erdoğan bir gün önce İsveç'in adaylığını ancak Avrupa Birliği'nin Ankara ile üyelik müzakerelerini yeniden başlatması halinde destekleyeceğini açıklamıştı. Peki Türkiye-AB üyelik müzakereleri ne durumda? Cumhurbaşkanı Erdoğan'ın talebi ne kadar gerçekçi? Bunu Avrupa Parlamentosu'nun Türkiye raportörü Nacho Sanchez Amor'a soracağız. Mr. Sanchez Amor, thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure.
I'm sure you followed the news last week. What do you make of Erdogan's demands on EU membership?
It was a little bit surprising, really, because the change in the mood of President Erdogan stance are very normal, let's say. But to link the accession to Swedish accession to NATO, to the accession of Turkey to the European Union, which was completely unexpected. And it's not possible. There are two different channels. There are two different organizations with two different rationale. NATO, let's say, abandoned the idea of being a military alliance of democracies, and it's about military and security. The European Union is still a club of democracies. At the core of the accession process, any country have to fulfill the Copenhagen criteria. Then if we have to assess what is the current situation of Turkey, there is no changes, there is no reforms. On the contrary, what we appreciate is a complete backwards in human rights and rule of law. And this is a core of the accession process. Of course, we have to debate a lot of technicalities, but the main thing we have to assess, and has been assessed in my reports, in the Commission reports and others, is there is no apparently political will to conduct the country to be a full-fledged democracy.
So the next day, President Erdogan gave green light to Sweden. I'm wondering, did EU make any promise to Turkey in return for the Sweden's accession?
Well, the Swedish accession has been a strange veto that nobody understood in the world. Because I fully endorse the legitimate concern of Turkey regarding his security, but it has not to be with NATO situation, because there is a war. This is not a normal situation. We have a war, and Erdogan has been delaying the reinforcement of our north flank in a moment of war, and this is, I have been very clear on that. That has been a help, has been an endorsement of the military Russian agenda. I'm very happy to see that finally President Erdogan, Turkey, is lifting the veto, because it has been a very, very painful situation, and we appreciate it a lot. I also say we have to be more consistent in our policy towards PKK in Europe. Probably Turkey has some legitimate concern about our conduct. If Turkey could be really create a concept of terrorists less enormous as it is in the political landscape in Turkey, it's easier to help Turkey to address the security issues. But if you start talking PKK and you introduce FETÖ and you introduce other Kurdish organizations, this is not possible. We have enlisted PKK as a terrorist organization, and Turkey has a fully legitimacy to demand us to comply with this command. But if you consider terrorists or aiding terrorists the minor political criticism in Turkey, this is not helping the security Turkish agenda. Then it's good to have the lifting of the veto. This is a good news. Has nothing to do with the accession process of Turkey to the European Union, and we have to be consistent with our policy of considering PKK as a terrorist organization, and Turkey has the right to demand us to be consistent in these policies.
Right, but did EU make any new promise to Turkey in return for Sweden's NATO accession?
No, the EU can't deliver anything related to the NATO accession. NATO has a different setting, has a different scope, has a different rationale, and has a different procedure to be member. Then what we can appreciate it is the good move, and we appreciate it from the political point of view, and that could create a better environment, and that helps to recreate or to regain trust but formally it's not linked. I don't know if in the move of lifting the veto has something to do with military equipment from America or others. We appreciated politically the move, and we are happy that finally the veto has been lifted. But in any way, the European Union as an organization could deliver something in exchange for this rational good move of President Erdogan. We can't bargain as EU in a thing related to NATO accession.
Mr. Sanchez Amor, do you think Ankara is the only one responsible for the lack of progress in Turkey's EU membership? Do you see any reluctance on the EU side as well?
There was an excellent moment in the beginning of this century when the process started, in which everybody agreed in the European Union that reinforced the European Union of Turkey with a moderate Islamist democracy could be good. Later, there was a change of mood because Sarkozy, because Germany, and because Cyprus, and we are fully aware of that. And for that reason, I have been very clear in my report, saying, if we revamp the accession process, if Turkey start to do things rightly, if Turkey advance in reforms, at the end of the process, we can't in any way to come back to the identity, religious, demographic veto. This is not going to happen. If we agree to reshuffle the accession process, we have to be sure about that. If Turkey comply, we have to admit Turkey in the European Union. I personally think it could be good for the European Union to reinforce even the identity with other powerful neighbors, even having different cultural grounds. But for that, we have to assess both parts. The political will of Turkey to conduct policies to become a full-fledged democracy, on our side, to be sure about our offer and not appearing at the end of the process or in the middle of the process to come back to this, let's say, what I call identity, religious, demographic veto.
You've been in the job since a couple of years, Mr. Sanchez Amor. Do you personally believe Turkey will one day become a new member?
I would like really to see that day, even not being a Turkish rapporteur in the European Union. I do really think a powerful democratic Turkey could be excellent news for the European Union to have this powerful country among us. This is my personal view. I understand that this is a process that is needing a lot of time to regain trust, then to really engage in a negotiation, and then to deliver after the negotiation. But my personal view, I always have been a supporter of having Turkey as a member of the European Union. But nothing to do with geopolitics, nothing to do with current situation of war. This is about what happened, for example, in my country, in Greece, in Portugal, in the east of Europe, the people gaining or reaching a level of democracy that is conducive to be member of the European Union. And we can substitute the political will of Turkey. Sometimes I hear this idea of incentives. Turkey has abandoned the idea to become a member because there was a lack of incentives. We can send incentives to many things, but to become a democracy is completely on the Turkish political elite and the Turkish society. We can substitute the political will to become a democracy. There is no incentives. I'm a Spaniard. That means my country exits from dictatorship, and in 5 years we had a full-fledged democracy with a new constitution and the political will to become member of the European Union. And nothing related to geopolitics was taken into consideration at that time. Is the political will, the reforms, the level of democracy, and then you are ready to engage in the other, let's say, technicalities related to trade, related to acquis, related to economy. But at the core of the accession process, I repeat it, is the political will to become a democracy.
So in order to unfreeze the negotiation process in Turkey, that depends on Turkish government, right?
Well, depends in the Turkish government, and they are fully aware of that. every report of the Parliament, every report of the Commission, every report of tens of think tanks in the world, they appreciated that the Turkish, the newborn Turkish democracy from 20 years ago has simply disappeared. And now the country is in a clear trend to be an autocracy, especially after the referendum changing the constitution. We have to appreciate a different political will to become a democracy. Yes, this is on the side of Turkey. And President Erdogan, he knows very well the things he has to do. He has to release Kavala, release the military, to comply to the court rulings of the European Court of Human Rights, to not to impede the accession of the HDP mayors to their positions, to stop meddling in the media freedom, to release the journalists. It's very clear what a democracy is, because you and your citizens, your co-citizens, having your age, you have now a different, more open, more inclusive Turkey. This is the thing we would like to be again on board.
You just mentioned Osman Kavala's detention was found to violate the European Convention on Human Rights, and the Council of Europe decided to launch an infringement proceeding against Turkey. What is the latest on that process? Do you expect Turkey to be removed from the Council of Europe?
Well, this is the Council of Europe who has to decide. The procedure has been opened after the reluctance of Turkish society, the Turkish authorities to comply. I don't understand this lack of compliance, because, you know, even if President Erdogan or the AKP consider that is unjust, that is not right, you have a complete political coverage. I have to I have to comply with the court ruling, even if I don't agree with the court ruling, even if I consider that this person could be dangerous, I have to comply in both cases. And what appears when you have so clear court rulings, that reluctance, it seems a political stance, not a legal one. And I think these messages to release Kavala, or to release the military, or to allow the HDP mayors to take the positions, or to free some journalists, and not to fine any media for any criticism. This is the thing we are waiting for a long time, 10 years, and I think after Gezi mainly, and we are really hoping a change of direction in the domestic policies in Turkey.
As you know, Turkish government raises the issue of visa exemption and the update of custom union. Why is there no progress on these matters?
There is no progress on this matter because there are six benchmarks, six conditions that the Turkish authority didn't address. This is the real thing. I know for sure that the public opinion in Turkey is receiving the message that the European Union is not complying because what we signed in the year 16, in the deal related to migration, is we are ready to re-engage in the visa liberalization progress when Turkey abide for this sixth benchmark. Two of them are very relevant. The scope of the concept of terrorism in the anti-terror law and the data protections. But I didn't hear that the government sent to the parliament this reform in the last years. Then what happened lately is different from this process. I think the real solution for the visa is to have a visa liberalization. But in the meantime, we recognize that our offices of visa in general, our European office, the offices of the member states has not delivered and there is a lot of delay to have a visa. We are aware of that and we are concerned about that. We reinforce our services because, as you know, there is a peak of demands after the pandemic to travel for many reasons, for tourists, for businesses, for other things. What I propose in my report is to have a speedy procedure for the visas for the students having granted an Erasmus in Europe. That could be an approach. We could start talking about Erasmus students. We can talk eventually about business community, but the real solution for the problem is not to pick up some particular group of people, but to really endorse and to really comply with the remaining six benchmarks that the Turkish authorities know perfectly they have to meet before having visa relaxation.
So finally, Turkey's EU accession negotiation began in 2005. Do you think these negotiations have improved Turkey's democracy, equality and human rights?
No, that's clear. This is one of my concerns. The accession process has not been conducive to impose reform because there is no political will. The accession process is functional if there is a political will. I know for sure because it was my personal experience in my country. But if there is no political will to become a democracy, inevitably the accession process is stuck, is not advancing. And for that reason, in my report, what we ask to the other institutions in the European Union, let's look for another format. Our late discussion has been, are we looking for another framework in our relation, maintaining the accession process frozen, or is needed to, let's say, to cancel, to finish the accession process before entering in this idea of looking for another format. Finally, we agreed with my colleagues in the Parliament to explore in a parallel way to things. We are maintaining the accession process frozen, just in case there were some dramatic changes, but at the same time, we committed and we asked the other institutions of the European Union, let's look for another framework, because at the end, we are not looking for another framework because we have the accession process. But if the accession process is not functional, and in my view, is becoming dysfunctional, we really need to look for another format. And there are a lot of things to discuss with Turkey. Customs unions, visa liberalization, migration, high-level talks of many aspects of economy. And we are ready to engage with Turkey in these other dossiers. But the accession process is related to membership, and membership is related to the level of democracy. And this is not going to change.
Mr. Sanchez Amor, thank you for your time and goodbye.
It's a pleasure.